What are the objectives of the lesson today? They are to define price elasticity of demand, to distinguish between elastic and inelastic demand, to describe the factors that make demand elastic or inelastic, and to use elasticity of demand to analyze economic situations. At the end of the lesson, we'll review an example of data response question of A-level Cambridge exam in economics. So, let's go through the definition of elasticity first. Elasticity is a measure of a variable's sensitivity to a change in another variable. In economics, elasticity refers to the degree to which individuals change their demand in response to price or income changes. There are three types of elasticity of demand: price elasticity of demand, cross elasticity of demand, and income elasticity of demand. Today we'll review price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of demand, or PED, is a term in economics often used when discussing price sensitivity. It's a measure of the responsiveness of demand to a change in price. Please note that PED doesn't tell us whether quantity demanded fell or rose. It tells how much quantity demanded changed relative to the change in price. As price and demand are usually inversely related, PED is normally a minus figure. It can be calculated using the following formula. PED is percentage change in quantity demanded of the product over percentage change in price of the product. Let's look at an example of calculation of PED, and I will show you how we reach the value of PED. Example question number 1. Gas prices increased by 50%. Gas purchases fell by 25%. Using the formula, we can calculate that the price elasticity of gasoline is minus 25% because the purchases fell, so it's a minus figure, over 50% because gas prices increased. So, and the final result of PED is minus 0.50. Let's have a look at another example. Example question number 2. The price of a good increased from $130 to $140, and quantity demanded fell from 10,000 to 9,900 units. We should calculate the value of PED. So, first of all, we should calculate the percentage change in quantity demanded. How can we do this? We subtract old value, which is 10,000, from a new value, which is 9,900 units, and we should divide this change by old value, which is 10,000, and after that we convert this to a percentage by multiplying by 100, and the percentage change in quantity demanded is minus 1%. After that, we can calculate the percentage change in price in the similar way. So, we subtract old value from a new value, divide this change by old value, and multiply by 100. The result is 7.7%. So, the percentage change in price is 7.7%. Having these numbers, we can calculate the value of PED. Minus 1 over 7.7, and the final result is minus 0.13. So, what is the value of this PED and how should we interpret it and what do these numbers mean? Let's try to understand the values for price elasticity of demand. A PED figure ignoring the sign greater than 1 and less than infinity means the demand is elastic, with a change in price causing a greater percentage change in quantity demanded. It means the demand responds more than proportionally to a change in price. For example, if a 10% increase in the price of a good leads to a 30% drop in demand, the price elasticity of demand for this price change is minus 3. A PED figure ignoring the sign of less than 1 and greater than 0 means that demand is inelastic. In this case, demand is not very responsive to a change in price, with a change in price resulting in smaller percentage change in quantity demanded. The other 3 degrees of PED are perfectly inelastic demand, unitary elasticity of demand, and perfectly elastic demand. If the answer of PED comes out as 0, which is unusual, it means the demand is perfectly inelastic. It means the demand doesn't change at all when the price changes, and the demand curve will be vertical. Look at this figure number 1. Unitary elasticity of demand happens when a change in price causes an equal percentage change in quantity demanded, and given a PED figure of -1. In this case, it's 1 because we're ignoring the negative. If price rose by 6%, quantity demanded fell by 6%. And unitary price elasticity of demand is illustrated by a rectangular hyperbola. Look at this figure number 2. Another extreme is perfectly elastic demand. Perfectly elastic demand means that a slight change in price will cause a complete change in quantity demanded, given a PED of infinity. And perfectly elastic demand is illustrated by a straight horizontal line. Look at this figure number 3. A number of factors come into play in determining whether demand is price elastic or price inelastic. So, what are the factors that affect price elasticity of demand? The number of substitutes available. If there are many substitutes for a particular good, the good will be much more elastic. This is because a rise in price of one good will mean that consumers can simply purchase a substitute good instead, which is cheaper. And therefore, a rise in prices would mean a proportionally larger decrease in quantity demanded. The proportion of income that is spent on that good. If a large portion of a consumer's income is spent on that good, any increase in prices will mean that the consumer will be more likely to go and look around for substitutes that are cheaper to save money, since so much money goes into purchasing that good. And therefore, the larger the proportion of a consumer's income spent on that good, the more elastic the demand for the good will be. The degree of necessity or whether the good is a luxury. Necessity goods, such as rice, bread, milk, are more inelastic, and luxury goods like mobile phones, laptops, cars tend to be more elastic because quantity demanded is more responsive to any price changes. Whether the good is subject to habitual consumption. Habit-forming goods, such as cigarettes, tend to be more inelastic because consumers become addicted to them and they will be less responsive to any price changes. And the last one, the time period allowed following a price change. The longer the period time, the more elastic the demand for a good will be. In short term, for any price changes, the consumer may not adjust his consumptions right away, but in the longer term, the consumer will look for cheaper options. Let's review data response question taken from A-level Cambridge exam in economics. From the table, explain the likely reasons for the different price elasticity values of business flights compared with holiday flights. So, what should we note from the table? That business flights are much more price inelastic than leisure flights. The value of PED for business flights lays between 0.3 and 0.7, and it means that demand for business flights is price inelastic. If we look at holiday flights, we can notice that PED for holiday flights lies between 1 and 1.5, and the demand for holiday flights is price elastic. Long distance flights are much more price inelastic than the same purpose short distance flights. We can see that for business flights, long distance flights, the value of PED is smaller than the same purpose short flights. It's minus 0.7. So Let's try to explain possible reasons for the price inelasticity of business flights. As we stated before, business flights are less sensitive to price changes and therefore they are much more price inelastic than leisure flights, and there are particular reasons for this. Expenses are paid by the traveler's company, so the price charged doesn't matter for the traveler as the business must be achieved. Other options don't exist for a business traveler, and arrival time is critical to the destination, whereas leisure travelers usually prefer a more comfortable schedule and they are much more flexible in terms of departure date and time. Business travelers usually assign a greater value to a flight, so their demand is much more price inelastic. As we noticed from the table, long-distance flights are much more price inelastic than the same-purpose short-distance flights, and there are also particular reasons for this. Fewer options exist for long-distance flights in comparison to short-distance. Other substitutes are available for short-distance journeys, like driving by car, going by train, or going by bus. Long-distance journeys involve higher costs that make the charge less important for a traveler in total cost. So what conclusions can we make from the table? Business flights are less sensitive to a price change and therefore they are much more price inelastic than leisure flights. And long distance flights are much more price inelastic than the same purpose short distance flights. Thank you for your attention. That's all for today and good luck with your studies.